Hey guys, it's Maymay, and look at this huge album I have in the screen. There's the top, there's the bottom. It's not finished. This is just where we get to today at the end of this video, so I thought I would come in and show you. This album is an ATC storage album, and it's something that I came up with that I think will be kind of cool for you guys if you're participating in our March ATC challenge. And also, if you don't know what an ATC is, I'll have a video linked for you below. We'll put one in the iCard for you as well, so you can just click there. So this is what I came up with. I wanted you to have a place to store your ATCs that you're going to get through the non-swap, right? And mine looks like this. So this is the front of the album. Let me show you the side. Here's the side and the back. Isn't it pretty? But when you open it, it looks like this, which is a little strange, I know, to look at. It looks like this. We've got pockets installed and this crazy binding system. But let me show you how this binding system works. There's these little binders, and your ATCs just slide in here and they stay. It's a tension binding system. Let me get some more ATCs to show you real quick. Works like this, and you can load it up with ATCs. This guy's gonna hold almost 50 or quite over 50. We'll know when I finish completely. We'll do a count then. But your ATCs will go into these little slots on the side, and the side will hold 21. This area right here holds 21 ATCs when it's full. Isn't that amazing? And when it's closed, let me put some on the other side real quick too. So look at this. This is even one of Brenda's thicker ATCs. They will even go inside here. You just slide that into the little tension slot just like that, and it will hold them. And we'll put another one of mine up here and another one here. This, again, this holds 21 on this side as well, plus your pockets in the middle. When you close it, you see your ATCs come to the middle, and if you look on the inside, you have plenty of room for them so they won't get damaged. And again, you'll be able to hold a lot of ATCs. So I wanted to show you this before we started the tutorial. You had to see what you were making. We're not done. This is going to be a two-part series. Today, we're going to get to this point, and then Saturday, we're going to finish it and decorate it, and I'll show you how I'm going to do a closure for it and everything. All right, let's get started. Okay, if I have ever made a project that I said to you, you need to watch this one to the end before you make it, this is it. There are so many tips and tricks I'm going to tell you about as we go along the way to make this one work. So watch to the end, then come back and make it. The first thing is this. You're going to need your chipboard. This is what's going to be what holds your whole album together, okay? So you need one piece that is 9.5 by 8. So just one piece of that. This is the base or the back of your album. You need two pieces that are 9.5 by 4. These are the front doors of the album. And then you need two pieces that are 9.5 by 2.5. So you get the point. Your album is 9.5 inches tall, 8 inches wide. So these numbers all make sense. Okay, so cut these pieces first, and we'll move to the next step. The next thing I want to do is I want to cover my album chipboard. I'm going to need to use 3 sheets of 8.5 by 11 black cardstock. If you have 12 by 12 cardstock, you won't need as much because you can get 24 inches if you add, well, not 24, you can get 23 inches if you add that together. I'm going to add these 3 together just to get me the length that I need, okay? So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take some of my sticky tape, almost 3/4 of an inch wide, and I'm going to attach my papers together at this width. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. I say papers, it's cardstock. This is actually Raven from Brutus Monroe. I always want to say from Christopher, from Brutus Monroe. So I'm lining up on 2 pieces at the very edge, this sticky tape, okay? And then I'm going to attach these together and get myself one big long black piece of cardstock, all right? So rub that down, pick this guy up. By the way, you guys have been asking me how I like this. I'm loving this tool. I really am. I love how it fits in my hand. So, might have a new fave. All right, now what I'm going to do, let me turn this sideways so you can see the whole thing that I'm doing. So here's the whole strip of my adhesive. What's the best way for me to get to see this too, huh? Let's do it this way. So there's the whole strip of my adhesive. And now I'm going to line this page up right on the sides, nice and straight on the edge, and right to the edge of that adhesive. That adhesive strip is the width that I want to overlap, okay? So this makes one long piece of black cardstock. See what I did there? Now we're going to do the same thing with this other this other piece, and attach it to the side. So I'm going to, oh, picked up the wrong one. As soon as I'm bragging about it, I have them both out here because we're going to use the other one in a second too. All right, peel off the backer. And then I'm going to attach this the very same way the width of our adhesive all the way up. This is just so that we'll have a long enough piece to cover our chipboard. And I know it's hard on the screen because look, I can cover the whole thing with the cardstock, but you can see what I've done. I've just extended it out. So now that I have this big long piece of cardstock made, I'm just going to put it aside for a minute. What I want to do now is prep my chipboard to be stuck down to there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is bring these guys back over, and we're going to add some sticky tape to these. I don't need a whole lot. This is not going to be pulled on or tugged on or anything like that. I'm just going to put a piece at the top and a piece at the bottom just to hold it in place inside of our little cardstock that we've made. So there's our big piece. And then on this one, I'm going to do the same thing, top and bottom. And this will stick down, and I'll show you how we're going to do that next. So every piece that we just cut, top and bottom adhesive. So filming this spot is going to be the hardest part that we do. The reason is, this is the top of my cardstock. Here's the bottom, and it's so big on my work surface, it's hard for you to see it, but I'm going to walk you through what I'm doing. So just follow along, and I think you'll be okay. The first thing I'm going to do is take the adhesive backer off of the pieces I put on the 9.5 by 8 inch piece. So this is my middle back of my album, okay? And what I want to do, I'm going to flip this over. I want to place this roughly in the middle and roughly the same height from the top and the bottom. I'm really not too stressed about getting that perfect, but I need to have some to flip over. So you see how I've got that piece hanging off at the top, and then I have this piece hanging off at the bottom. That's what I'm looking for. My chipboard's got a little bit of fuzziness on it, so let's get that off of there. All right, the next thing we're going to do, I want to move down to this end, okay? We're going to take one of our pieces that is the 2.5 inch piece. This is the spine of your book, because the way the book opens and closes, the spine is on the side, okay? So we're going to do this. We're going to take both of our pieces of the 2.5 by 9. So I've got 2.5 by 9.5 pieces. What I want to do is I want to remove the sticky adhesive protector here, the little adhesive backer. I want to remove that on the top and bottom first. And then I'm going to place this as my spacer right next to that chipboard I've already placed down and stand it up, okay? That's going to be what gets me my space between my pieces of chipboard. And then I'm just going to line my chipboard up with the top and bottom as good as I can, as close as possible, and stick this down. Now you do have to be as precise as you can on your placements, but we don't do perfect, so don't stress if it's slightly off like it looks like mine is, okay? Now we want to do this again, but this time we want to use our piece that is 4 inches wide, okay? So this is going to be the piece that goes next. This is actually the door that's going to close our album up, okay? So it'll go down next. So I'm going to peel off the protective backer here. And then down at the bottom, all right, I have a question. Even if you have a trash can close, do these end up all over your desk or what? They do on mine. I have a trash can right at me. All right, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to stand this guy up just like this, line him up at the top and the bottom, and then I'm going to use him to be my spacer for my next piece. So I'm pressing against it, getting it nice and straight, and you can lift this out and see how my spaces are right. Isn't that cool? All right, I'm going to turn this around and do the other side the same way. So you see I have those over here. Now we're going to do the same thing. So we need this piece to go down now. So what I'm going to do is remove this backer. I'm trying really hard to put those in the trash can every time, but I still see a stack. Look, there's still a stack right here. And now I'm going to use my next piece as my spacer. So I'm going to place that in and line it up as good as I can so it helps me get nice and straight. Just like so, and then press this guy against it, stick it down. Now you think, what are you going to do now? You don't have another piece. Well, I have scraps left over from where I was trimming all of those pieces up. So I'm just going to use a scrap piece here, not this one. That one may not be the same thickness because I want the one that's white on the other side as well. Now you might be thinking, well, now what are you going to do? You don't have another piece for a spacer. But I really do. I have a scrap from when I was cutting. I'm going to use it as my spacer. So again, I'm going to remove these backers here and then space them apart. and stick them down. All right, so turn this over. I'm going to use this as my spacer. Now, it's a little more difficult here because I don't have that whole piece to help me line it up. So I need to line up very carefully and then push in the middle only, trying to not put any pressure to one side or the other. Because if I do, I could get too close here or too close here. So if you can use the longer pieces, that's the way to go. All right, the next thing I need to do is I need to apply adhesive all the way around here because I want this to fold over and close down. So what I'm going to do, starting at the top, will this one work? I think this one will be, I think it will work. I'm going to use it. This is my wider adhesive. If it hangs over slightly, it won't matter. Everything's getting covered. So I'm going to lay my adhesive down here at the top, just like this. I'm running it all the way down. Bring that in there like so. Get my little block, which is here. Bring it to the edge, trim that away. So there's that. I'm going to do that on the bottom side as well. So come up here to the top, lay that in. I can tell that's hanging over a bit at the top, but it's not a big deal. All that'll get tucked over. Lay this one down here. Use my little block to tear that away. And now the edges, same thing. And I don't have to overlap my adhesive. I can just lay it right to it, like so. Use my block, tear that away. And now the other side. So you can see I was a little off because this one's wider, but it's not a big deal. As long as it gets flipped over and covers up the chipboard, we're okay. It's better than trimming it and having that little tiny piece left over. All right, the next thing I want to do. Now you could have put your adhesive here, but I find putting it on my paper helps because any that wraps around then has adhesive on it. Now I want to take some of the bulk off this end, and because this is kind of hanging off the edge, I'm going to show you how I'm going to get around this. I'm going to cut to the edge there of my chipboard about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch away, all right? And I'm going to cut this strip off. I do not need this strip. This will take the bulk out when I wrap this over, okay? I'm only going to do this on this awkward end where it's too long. Would you call this a mistake? Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I should have actually measured and I wouldn't have to do this. You guys always tell me you want me to leave this kind of stuff in. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to cut this away like so. I'm trying to do this where you can see me do it in camera, but this guy is huge. Okay, so I've got that out of the way. But on the other end, I'm just going to miter it. So had I measured, I could have just mitered. Here's how I miter. About an 1/8 of an inch away, I do that little angle cut there. And the same here, about an 1/8 of an inch away from the corner of my chipboard, and that. Okay, so it works. It's not a big deal. It doesn't look as, neat and clean, but we're going to get the job done. All right, the next thing we want to do, and this is optional, but I think it works really well. I'm going to take my embossing tool or a bone folder. You can do this with a bone folder too. Let's show you. If you just have a bone folder, take it, run it down beside your chipboard all the way around. I'm going to go to the top. I'm going to run it down here. This helps you get a really good turn on your chipboard when it's time for you to flip this over. Go to the bottom and do it here. Just pressing up against the chipboard edge and making a little bit of a score mark to let that paper fold really well. Down this side. And then the little bit I couldn't do here. Okay, so now we got that done. The other thing you can do is you can go right inside here and do a little press. Don't go too crazy here. Don't press too hard. You don't want that to tear. You're not trying to rip through. You're just wanting to give it a little place to get a nice straight bend. Perfect. Okay, now the fun part. Let's remove our backer. And look at that, all the way down. Cool. Now I want to bring this edge up. Do you see how my adhesive's hanging off? What I'm going to do is just tuck it around because any extra adhesive is good adhesive. So see, I'm just tucking that around and it will totally hide when we turn this over. Okay, so that's all done. And now I'm going to start in the middle and I'm just going to lift all the way down. And then I'm going to turn it over onto the chipboard. So I'm going to wrap it, just like so, all the way down. So I got that down nice and snug. Now let's do this side. Take your time. Don't rush. You're making a project you're going to have forever, so don't rush it. Then, now that you got that done, you might want to come back and burnish. The only thing I want to caution you on is this. If you decide to change your measurements for wrapping over, give yourself plenty to wrap. If you try to only wrap 1/4 of an inch, it will be so much trouble. You see how much I've got wrapped over? This is a much better wrap than if you just do 1/4 of an inch turnover. That's just not enough on your albums. All right, let's do this side. Tear this guy off, just like so. And then we're going to get it ready. This one didn't hang over very much at all, so I'm going to let that go. I'm going to start in the middle and stand it up all the way down. And then, I'm moving everything. And then I'm going to work it my way from the middle, lay it down all the way out. And then I'm going to burnish it. Now, before I bend the middles up, I want to go ahead and do these ends. I just like to go ahead and get all the paper where it needs to be before I start bending. And the reason is, I feel like the bend will be better if I have all the paper as tight as it's going to be before I start bending it. You'll see what I mean in just a second. I'm just going to work this one over. And then grab that center. Work my way down. And then burnish. Good deal. Flip it around. Peel this off. Now, if you know what I'm going to do first? I don't want to take a chance of this hanging off the edge. So I think I am going to do this just a little bit at an angle right here to the side, just to take some of that off so it doesn't hang over the edge. Just a tiny little bit. You see what I did there? Just those tiny little bits. Okay. Now then, this is so big. I should have thought about this and filmed in a bigger spot. I apologize. All right, so I'm going to lift this guy up, turn him over, and stick it down. Beautiful. I love those nice crisp corners. All right, now we can start to bend, okay? So bend easy. You left some space on purpose. Another thing to remember, this does not have to go any more than 90 degrees, okay? Bend it straight up. That's all we need it to do. Now we're going to bend this middle piece up. It only has to go 90. Don't try to force it to go any further. You're not trying to lay this down and crease it. This is what you want it to do, 90 degrees. Now, I don't love this little bend, so I am going to work that a bit. And now I'm going to do the other side. Lift it up. That one did really well. And then turn this one over. I think that my paper joint landed right here. You can see that, how that paper joint landed, and that made it a little bulky there. It's going to be fine, but it is a little bulky, so I need to work that a good bit. Just like that. All right, so my album, the outside is built. This is what my album is going to look like. I'm going to show you my plan for closing it. I'm really excited for how this is going to look. By the way, this guy's going to hold like 54 ATCs. I'm super excited. Now we need to make our, well, what would be our spine? Would it be? It'll be our spine, but this is going to be our ATC holders. So we need to make those for right here and get our strips ready for the inside. So to make the ATC binder, it's a tension binding is what it is. The way it holds the cards in, it's a tension binding. And what you're going to do is you're going to need 4 pieces of cardstock that are 9.5 by 11.5. That's going to be what makes our tension binder. Now you're going to need 2 for each side of the album. That's how we're going to get so many in it. But what we're going to do is score these all the same. So let me start by scoring the first one. And then I'll score the next ones off camera. And also, after I score this, I'm going to mark it so you can see it. So just go with me to get your measurements, and then I'll show you with a pencil mark what they all look like. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is put this into your scoreboard on the 9.5 inch side. We're going to start there, okay? On the 9.5 inch side, you want to score in these places. You want to score at 1/4 of an inch. Then you want to score at 3 1/4, 6 1/4, and 9 1/4. All right, so I'm going to do that on all 4 pieces. Okay, so on your first piece, this is where you're scoring 1/4, 3 1/4, 6 1/4, and 9 1/4. So that's on your 9.5 inch side. Okay, so I did this so you could see the lines all the way down. Now we're going to turn it and do some serious scoring. Get ready. I will do a sheet to show you those score marks as well, so don't panic if you don't get these right away, and you can always look on our blog post to get their measurements also. Okay, on this guy, we're going to score at 3/4, 1 inch, 1 3/4, 2 1/2, 3 1/4, 4 inches, 4 1/4, 5 inches, 5 3/4, 6 1/2, 7 1/4, 7 1/2. I'm going to read my notes. 8 1/4, 9, 9 3/4, 10 1/2, and 10 3/4. Now don't stress about it. I know those numbers were crazy and you probably couldn't catch all of them. I'll have them on the blog for you. There'll be a list and you can just check them off. Look at there, you can see that really well. I don't need to draw that. You can see all those lines. They're really good. Let's see if you see them. Oh yeah, see those lines? So what you've done here is this first little section is what will attach to our book. This is a hinge. This is a hinge. And this is a hinge. These are the tension that hold your ATCs in. It'll make sense as we get going. I'm going to score the others the same way. So go to the blog post, get your measurements, and score all 4 sheets of your paper exactly this way. I want to give you a tip on this last one. I wrote my measurements down on a scrap piece of paper. That's how I'm doing mine to tell you guys what they are. I would suggest you write them down as well, and don't even try to pay attention to where you're scoring. Just pay attention to your measurements. So I'm looking at my list, and I know I need to score at 3/4. Then I need to score at 1, and then 1 3/4. Don't try to figure out what you're scoring. Just know you're scoring at the right places, and everything will work out. So keep your little list beside you and work your way down. You don't have to worry about getting off either, because let's say the phone rings, I walk away, what have you. When I come back, I know I just did 4 1/4. I look at my list and now I need to do 5. So as long as you just look at your list, you'll be fine. Don't try to do it in your head. So those right there got me my money's worth for my scoreboard, I'll tell you that. All right, now we're gonna start folding these guys, okay? You're gonna fold it at every score line. So we're gonna start with the first one, which is the 3/4. So I'm just gonna fold it like that. And then I'm just going to have a 1/4 piece to fold. I'm going to fold it up as well. The reason is I told you that's the piece that's going to be our spine, or what actually glues. It's our hinge. That's what will glue to our actual book. Then what you'll do is you're going to accordion for just about 3 folds. You're going to send 1 forward, just like that. Got that one. Then we're going to go down. And then we're going to go up again. After you do one of these and you see what it's supposed to look like, this will be easy. All right, so I had my 3/4, my 1/4, my accordion, and now I'm to a 1/4 again. My 1/4 just gets folded and folded up as well. I'm going to fold it up from this side because I can see it better if I go from behind here. So I'm going to fold it up one more time. Just like that. So now I've got to do a series of accordions again. So this one goes up, the next one goes down, the next one goes up, and I'm back to a 1/4 piece again. Okay, now the 1/4 piece gets folded up, and then I'm going to fold up the next one, just like that. Get in there so I can get to it. Then I have an accordion piece again. Just like this. Then up again here. My cardstock has a wood grain on it. If yours doesn't have that, you won't struggle this much, I promise. My wood grain is fighting me in places. All right, and then I'm to a 1/4 again. So I'm going to fold that up. And then that last little bit gets folded up also. There we go. Okay, so let's look at this from the side. So I don't know if the side's going to help you. Here's what happens. This piece here comes together and becomes a binding piece. This piece comes together and becomes a binding piece. And then this piece comes together and becomes a binding piece. The little 1/4 of an inch pieces back here become what we adhere it to the book with. That'll make sense as we get going, but that's how you're going to score and fold it. You can see it here. My 1/4 of an inch is flat, it's flat, it's flat, and it's flat here. And then my mountain valleys are like this. Okay, let's do it again. It's a little confusing, I know. All right, so I'm gonna fold up my first one, then my little flat 1/4 right there, then mountain valley. So I'm going to do this one up, that one down, okay, and then my next one is the same thing, up and down. Now I'm back to a 1/4, okay, so I'm going to fold it on my little 1/4 line there, and now I'm back to mountain valley again. Another mountain valley. Also, if you're not doing this on camera, it's so much easier. You know how I know? Because this is like my 12th one to do, because I made so many for the prototype. And it's much easier when I'm not trying to do it where you guys can see every step. Okay, fold that one. Then we mountain valley again. Bring that one back. And then we have a 1/4 piece. Okay. Now you should have 2 of these folded in the same way. Let's go ahead and assemble one hinge. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to take those mountain valley pieces that you did that are on either side of a 1/4 fold. You see I have a 1/4 there and a 1/4 there. I want to take that mountain valley here, okay? And this is the tool that's going to make this work. A regular old stapler. Your stapler does have to have the standard length 3 inches, okay, for this to work. And what you're going to do, you know those score lines we made going this way? You can kind of see mine there. You see my little score line right there? That is my guide for where to staple. So with my mountain valley facing up, I'm going to take my stapler on its side, and I'm going to go to that score line, which incidentally happens to be as far in as I can go. That worked out. That was a happy accident, okay? So now I'm going to flip it around and do the other. I can see my score line. I'm going to take my stapler, I'm going to push it in and staple as far as it could go. I am not concerned about my staples not going in the same direction. If you are, you can make sure they do. It doesn't bother me one bit. Now we have those 1/4 of an inch score lines on the end. You can see it right there, that little score line. That's to tell me where to staple here. So I'm going to go to that 1/4 of an inch and staple there. And look, I've made a pocket, okay? We'll do the same thing here. Right to that little 1/4 of an inch score line and staple. It's just the right size for your stapler and everything. It works out perfect. Now I'm going to go to my next mountain valley, okay? So I'm leaving that 1/4 of an inch flat in between. See it? Lift up my next mountain valley and staple the same. So I'm going to put my little pieces in and go to that score mark, staple, flip it around, put my pieces in, go to the score mark, staple, and then do my 1/4 of an inch marks on the end. Here, and also here. Now I'm telling you, if you watch this to the end, it will make sense. Right now it's a little crazy and all over the place. If you watch to the end, it'll all make sense. All right, so the next one, same thing. Mountain valley, lift it up. Now, if you don't want to get as many ATCs in your album as I want to get a lot in mine, you don't have to do as many binders as I'm doing, as many of these pieces we're doing here. I want to get a whole bunch, so I'm making these 4 so they'll hold a lot of them. I'll show you what I mean. All right. So this particular one is now done. Now let me show you real quick what this does so it makes sense. If I take an ATC card, so here's an ATC I made earlier. I want to show you how this works. It is a tension binding system, okay? What'll happen is you will slide your little ATC in like this, and it will stay. See how that's going to stay in there no matter what I do? The tension holds it in. And by measuring it the way I did for you, these little spots are going to hold all your ATCs. It'll be so cute in your little album. You'll be able to flip through and look at all of them. And that way, you're not having to have covers for them. You could put them in protective sleeves. That'd be cute. But it works really cool to do it just like this. And it even holds the thicker ones. I'll show you. So this one is one of my cardboard ones that I made. It even holds these guys. You can just stick this in here like so, slide it in, and boom, it holds the big ones as well because it works with tension. All right, because I want to hold so many of these, I'm going to attach two of them together. So let me staple this one the same way I just did this one, and I'll show you how to attach. So folding up my Mountain Valley, sticking my stapler in, all the way to my 3-inch score mark, staple, turn it around and do the same. Then do my 1/4 inch. Next Mountain Valley, same way. And then my last one. So now you can see here I have 2 of these. You're going to make 4 of these total. Now I want to attach this one to this one. This is where I'm going to get so much space for ATCs. What you'll do is you'll take 2 ends and you'll put them together like this, and you guessed it, you're going to staple them right where you did the other part, but this time it's going to hold these together for you. So there's my 3-inch mark. I'm going to come down here and do my 1/4 inch while I've got it. Flip it around, do my 3-inch and then my 1/4 inch. Okay, so now we have one big hinge. See that? And even our middle piece will hold ATCs, because it is also a tension spot just like the rest. So this is how we can get so many. We can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 3. We can get 21 ATCs in this binder alone, okay? Now, you might be saying, but why did you use a stapler? Why don't you just use adhesive? I found over time in albums, when we're putting tension on adhesive, it can release. And because this is a tension binding, I think that the staple is the way to go, because what holds your card in is the pressure that cardstock is putting to hold it together. So I think this is the way to go. If you want to use adhesive, just use your adhesive in place of the staples. But I really think over time, the staples are a better choice. And remember, you can always cut strips of paper and cover these little binders up if you want it to be super cute. But this is not going to bother me at all. I've already done one like this and it looks really cute. All right, I need to do the other binder just like this, and then we will get ready to put it in our book. So now I'm going to do this again, do our little binder here one more time with these 2 sheets, and we'll get right back together. Okay, so the next step, and you might want to do this before you get to this point. I tend to get ahead of myself. You need to put adhesive on these large flaps, and I'm going to again use my sticky tape to do it. It's not really all that hard to do. I'm just going to place it here like this, and I'm going to run it even with the top edge of that piece. And remember, this is the flap we left on purpose to adhere to our book. Okay, so that's that larger flap gets that piece right there, and then this flap gets it as well. Again, if you want to do this before you get to this point, I totally understand, but I just didn't. I didn't think about it. I should have. I've made a bunch of these. All right, so I'm going to stick this down here just like this and stretch this guy all the way across. Okay, now here's the interesting thing. I am only going to add one more tiny piece of adhesive, and let me show you where. You see how these all turned into our binders? Remember, we did all that folding to make this happen. These turned into our binders. I only want one more piece of adhesive on this little piece and this little piece. There's a reason, okay? So let me show you how to adhere the, or where to adhere the adhesive here, and then I'll tell you why when we get into the book. Okay, so I'm going to use a thinner sticky strip, or sticky tape. I'm going to place this here. If it hangs over a little bit, over that binder piece, that's actually fine. You just don't want to glue the entire thing down. Okay, so I'm going to snip this away. Like so. All right, let me show you what I did here. So I just put one piece of adhesive there. So this piece is going to stick to the side of our book, and then this is going to stick to our binder. Same thing on this side. I'm going to add one piece of adhesive on this one right here. This definitely should be done ahead of time. I should have done it. I'm sorry. While yours is still flat, go ahead and do this so you're not fighting it like I am at this point. It's one of those things y'all ask me to leave in sometimes. All right, so just stick this down to that first flat spot and trim it away. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my other one real quick too. This is kind of a rookie mistake on my part. I know better. This is not my first mini album to make. I should have shown you guys where to do it much earlier on, and it just did not even cross my mind. But there's always a workaround. Okay, so to put this spine in, or to put this piece in, we're going to use this section, okay? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to reveal the larger section of sticky tape. And if you've got any hanging over, you can tuck it. It won't really matter because we're going to be covering all that up anyway with our decorative papers. But that's how that's going to go. Now what I'm going to do is tuck this underneath so I can see that white edge. And I'm going to line this up right here. And this spine and our binder piece is the same length. So we're going to line it up to the end, and I'm going to line it up with that separation piece that we have where the book bends. You'll see in just a second. Let me get this down, and then I'm going to rub that down. Okay, so you'll see that I put it just at where the bend happens, right there. Okay, now what we're going to do is release the smaller piece of adhesive. There we go. And I'm not going to press it down yet. I'm just going to leave it like that for now. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same here. I'm going to release this one, the smaller one, and the larger one on this side. So there's the smaller one. Now let's get the larger one. Now I'm going to line it up the same on the other side, meaning I'm going to line this edge with this fold just to the other side of it. I'm going to press it into place. Don't worry, I've got this adhesive sticking out. Don't worry about that. I'm going to cover that up in a few minutes with some decorative paper anyway. Now those pieces that we have in there, that were those extra pieces of adhesive, you can press those down. Now, I don't really think those two small strips of adhesive are going to do much, because here's what I'm trying to accomplish. I need this to be loose in the middle so that when it closes, it has some give. Now, there's a reason for this. It's not so much because that's how mini albums should be done, but this particular one, it doesn't have full-size pages, okay? What happens here is it has these short ATCs. Let me show you. So this is the prototype I made, okay? And on this side, I glued those down nice and tight, and they look really nice and neat. I glued every one down. But the problem is, because there's no weight to these, it's really hard to flip through these like that. And when I do, it releases the adhesive anyway. So I discovered on the other side of my tester, if I leave that open, if I don't adhere it down, maybe it helps for you to have this little sample that we're looking at. If I don't adhere those middle pieces down, I can flip through here because nothing's stopping me. Let me put some in real quick. So this way, I can flip them, and it kind of gives a little room for that to happen. When I put it straight down, when I adhere all of those down, I don't get that opportunity. So again, that little bit of adhesive is really not going to help too much. It might help some, that one little strip. The biggest thing are these pieces here where it attaches. I hope that makes sense. So just don't do this. If you do, you can, but just know they're going to stay straight up and nice and firm, and you're not going to get that movement, which I think makes a big difference in the book itself. Now what I'm going to do is kind of put a little pressure. I'm not forcing it because I don't want to rip the paper, but I want the spines of the book to fold nice and snug. And that's about what I'm looking for right there. Now you may get this. Do you see how I've got some tearing right here? That's because I put a lot of pressure. I'm not worried about that. When I decorate it, I'm going to cover all that up anyway. You'll see how we're going to do that. It'll be super cute. Okay, so here's the basis of our little ATC album, but it still needs some pretties. So now we can start decorating and build the ATC holders for inside. For the inside of my album, I have cut some pages. This is from the Spring Market. Is that the right one? Let me make sure. This is from Spring Market from Cartabella. I cut this wood grain to go in the middle. I think it'll be really pretty. And what I did was I cut this piece at 7 1/4 by 9 1/4. But again, don't stress. All your measurements will be in the blog post. And then on the sides over here, I've cut 2 pieces that are 3 3/4 by 9 1/4. They're going to cover right there. See how clean that's going to make that? And we're going to put this piece right here. I love how that looks. Now, I'm still going to be adding some spots for ATCs over there too. Maybe you could also use that for journaling. I may use this for journaling and just add some. I don't know. We'll see in a second. We'll get there. So what I'm going to do is glue this in. And I'm just going to use art glitter glue for this. You can use whatever. You can use sticky tape again. You could use whatever glue you're comfortable with. This is the one I like. And this makes quick work of this. I even dripped some on my album there. I got a little ahead of myself. All right, so I'm going to put this down here. And that is going to cover up all of my workings on the inside and make that look nice and clean. And we've still got stuff to do in there. We're not just going to leave that as a big blank panel. You'll see in just a few minutes. So now we'll put this one down. The galoshes are cute too. It's hard to decide, but I kind of know what I'm going for. I actually was thinking about this album, and I wanted to do something different for me. And I think my theme is going to be kind of floral and stripes. That's kind of what I'm looking at. And I've got an idea for the front that I'm going to have to kind of draw out for you guys. I think that's the best way to show you what I'm going to do there. So I'm going to get the inside covered, and then we'll start on the front. So I told you for the cover, I'm going to draw it out for you guys. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to draw the shape of the album here so you can see what I'm working with here. So this is our album, right? That's the front cover in the middle. Now I want you to imagine, well, let me just draw it here. What I want to do is I want to do kind of a 1/3 panel where this bottom is one pattern and the top is another. And I want that to carry over. So if I draw it this way, if I draw the back here, and then this is my binding, and then this is the front flap, and the same over here, binding and front flap, not to scale by the way. Then I'm going to do my paper like this to go across here. So I'm going to measure it that way if that makes sense. So the top is going to be a stripe and the bottom is going to be a floral. Okay, so I need to measure in this way. What would normally be, like if we did this middle panel right here, this big one, it would normally be 7 1/4 by 9 1/4, the same as we did on the inside, okay, to mat this, but I want to cut this down. So I need to decide what dimension I want from here to here. So the reason I'm showing you this is if you don't want to do 2 tones, you can just cut this piece and lay it on there and you're fine, but I want to split it. So I need to decide where I'm going to split it. So I'm going to use my ruler. So I know that 9 1/2, let me get this where you can see the whole thing here. I know that 9 1/2 is the height of my album, right? So I know this is the height of my album. And I want to come down about here. So I'm thinking what I want to do is I think I want my top panel to be 5 1/4 right here. So instead of 7 1/4, I do it 5 1/4. Nope, I made a mistake. So instead of 9 1/4, be 5 1/4, okay? But my width will stay the same. So 7 1/4 by 5 1/4. I'm sorry that I'm doing those sloppy measurements for you. And then for this bottom panel, that means I need the difference of these two. So 5 1/4, that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. So the bottom panel will be 4 by 7 1/4. Does that make sense? So this panel here, okay, it is going to be 7 1/4 wide, okay, and it will be 5 1/4 tall. And then the bottom piece here will be 7 1/4 wide by 4 inches tall. Let me cut it and lay it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll do the same thing with these guys, measuring the same way. So they'll all be 5 1/4 tall. I'll only have to adjust the height, the width of each one. So 5 1/4. I know that. And then these will all be 4 tall. I'll just adjust the width based on the panel that they land in. Again, I will put measurements in the blog post. I just wanted to show you what my process was so it makes sense to you. So for the front of my album, or for the outside of my album, I have decided I want to cover it in stripes and florals. So I want the top to have a stripe and the bottom to have a floral. So what I did was, instead of cutting full panels like I did on the inside, is I cut down panels to fit like this. I'm gonna lay these out for just a second so you can kind of see. So this is the back of my album. This is the side spine. And then of course, these are the front, the actual front panels are the larger pieces here. And this is how it will lay out, okay? So what I'm gonna do in the measurements for you guys is I'm gonna give this to you both ways. I'm gonna give it to you laid out this way, like I have it here, where you can have it as a split pattern, or I'm gonna give it to you as a solid pattern so you'll get the whole dimensions in the blog post, okay? So this is how I'm gonna lay mine out. I thought it'd be pretty. I wanna play with stripes and florals, and so that's what I'm gonna do. So let's put these onto the album. Now I'm gonna start with the back here. This is the largest piece we're gonna put on. So I'm gonna take my stripe, that's the top piece. I'll put my glue on it. And it's gonna go to the top. And I'm going to have a little bit of an edge around it because, I cut it down 1/4 inch smaller. So I'll have 1/8 of an inch there to work with. So I'm going to place that down just like so. And now I'm going to put the floral piece underneath right to it, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and establish this middle section. So when I put the other ones on, I can kind of mimic it on either side and everything will line up pretty good. All right, so I'm going to line this up here. I'm not overlapping them. I'm putting them right together. You'll see why. I'm going to do a little more decorating. So put those right together, and then that lays out just right. So my album will be two-toned. Isn't that pretty? I like it. I think that's a little different. All right, so now I need to do the side and the front the same way. So this is what the front of my album will look like. The side of the album is going to look like this, and the back will look like this. Isn't that cool? I like the two-tone. The closure I have in mind right now may not work. I may decide to do a belly band, but either way, that's kind of where I want it to land and separate the two. But I'm thinking a belly band might be the best option based on the resistance that I'm getting, because of where the binders are. But we're learning this together, so we'll see. All right, let's go to the inside now, and let's make the pieces that are going to hold some more ATCs in here and also down this strip. So what I want to do here is I have some pieces left over from my cuttings. When I was cutting down my 12 by 12 paper to make these guys, I had these pieces that were 2 inches wide. They might even be a little more than 2 inches. Let me measure them real quick. Here's the ruler. I hide everything from me when I'm crafting. Yeah, these are, gosh, a little over 2, and these are 2 3/8 inches. You don't have to have 2 3/8, but I want to utilize my scraps as much as I can. So I'm going to use these guys, and I want to cut these down to 7 3/4, which is the width of that panel on the inside. So using my scraps, whatever width they are, and you can use whatever width you have. You don't have to, this is pretty much easy. You can put as many as you want in here. I'm going to cut this down to 7 3/4, and I'm going to go ahead and make myself 3 of these. The 3 pieces I cut off, I'm also going to use, and I'm going to cut them down to 3 3/4, just like this. So these pieces are going to go on the side to hold another ATC. So from that 12 by 12 piece of paper, that's all that's left of that strip I just used. Don't need those for this project, but I was able to use those scraps up. Now I'm going to play with a new punch I've got. So we just got this border punch into the store, and I've had this one before. This is the dotted scallop punch. And this is the reason I wasn't quite as concerned about the height of this, where it was 3/8 of an inch. I just used the scrap because I'm going to border punch it anyway. So what I'm going to do is just kind of center this onto my little punch here and get it started. There's one, and then just border punch this all the way down. I'm going to give you guys a tip about your new EK Success punches. They are oiling them really well. And sometimes when you first punch, you're going to get that little bit of oil. Do you see that? So I recommend you punch your punches on a scrap piece of paper when you first get them in, just to take care of that, just to get rid of that little oily residue. I like that they're oiling them though, because that helps them to punch better. But I don't like the residue it's leaving behind. Fortunately on this one, it just looks kind of like distress ink, which I could always come back and do some distressing if I needed to cover that up. This is my stub and scallop punch. This is the one that looks like a ticket stub on this side or a scallop on this side. I'm going to scallop punch the corners of this guy just for something a little different. See that? And you can do this with any punch you've got. I just wanted to do something to the edges to make them not look so flat. Probably won't show that much, but I'll know it's there. And I like that idea. These are the kind of little extra touches when somebody sees it, they're like, oh, how did you get that little cute edge? Or it looks like you maybe, cut it out on an electronic cutting machine or something like that. When you know all you did was pick up your punch and use it. All right, I'm going to do these all at the same time. I should be able to, no problem. Yeah, that's easy. All right, so let me show you how we're installing these guys. Now, let me show you what I've done here. So these are those pieces that we just cut out and trimmed with our little border and did with the little punch on the bottom. Okay. This is how I'm going to install them. I've run sticky tape here, up the middle, and on either side. And they're going to go in here just like this all the way up. Okay, so let's remove the back off and we'll put that in real quick. Okay, so the first one is going to get installed about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom and all the way across on either side. Okay. Just like that, leaving us plenty of room to put an ATC in here. See that? But you don't want it to be loose because you don't want it to fall out. Now, if you need more space for your ATCs, you can always put a gusset in, but I think you want it kind of snug so you have room for them to like lock into place. Now, our next ones are going to go slightly above. Each time, we're going to raise our panel up 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to eyeball it. You can measure it if you need to. But I'm just going to eyeball 1/4 of an inch up from this last one. Just like so. So 1/4 of an inch up, the same distance across. That's a healthy 1/4, I think. Stick that down. So there's another pocket for 2 more ATCs and 1 more above. So we're going to eyeball that 1/4 of an inch. I got my adhesive off a little bit. Let me tuck that under. Okay. So eyeball 1/4 of an inch up, and there we have it. So this now is pockets at the top here, okay, and it clears the top. That's the thing we wanted to make sure of, that our ATC cleared the top. We have a pocket here in the middle, and it'll overlap. Isn't that pretty how that overlaps? And then we have a pocket here. Cool, huh? And also a pocket on either side. So this will hold 2, 4, this will hold 6 in the middle. Now we're going to mimic that on the side. We're going to do literally the same thing on this side, and we'll hold 3 more ATCs over here. So we're going to start at the bottom. And on this one, I'm not going to put adhesive in the middle, only on the 3 sides. So let me show you real quick how we're going to do that. So on this one, I'm going to put some adhesive along the bottom, along this side, and the other side, and we're just going to make a flat pocket. When I say flat, I mean we're not adding any gussets or anything, so it's going to be nice and flat on the side of our little album there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do all of these. So I've revealed the sticky here, and I'm just gonna come to the bottom, and again, about 1/8 of an inch up, but all the way across. So place that one down. You can even do a little lift in the middle if you wanted to kind of work it in the middle a little bit like that. Again, I'm going to go about a good 1/4 of an inch up, kind of matching up where I was on the other side. There's my next one. And then the last one. Do a little lift right there, about a 1/4 of an inch up. So easy, isn't it? That's so easy. And now we have pockets for ATCs here. There's one. We have a pocket here. And we have a pocket here. Isn't that awesome? So now we can hold 3, 6, 9, plus all the ones we get in here. We can hold a lot of ATCs in this album. Now, here's what I'm going to do. It is time to move on to more decorating, but that's going to take me a little longer than just a few minutes. So we're going to call this part 1. And when we get back together on Saturday, we're going to finish our decorating. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to fix my little corners that got a little worn there. And I'm going to load it up with what ATCs I have and show you how much it will hold. I just thought this would be a great project for us for our ATC challenge that we're doing. If you're not familiar with that, I'll leave the information for that for you below and in the blog post so you can see what we're doing. You might want to be a part of it. All right, guys, there's how it's looking so far from the top. Pretty cool, huh? I'm really excited. Oh, I meant to mention, I'm not going to put any pockets here. You totally could, but I think I'm going to leave this open for a little journaling. And the reason is, if I use this for my March motivation ATCs that come in, I think this would be cool for that. But also at our events, we do ATC swaps, and I think it'd be cool to write that in here. Now, if you don't know what an ATC is, I have a whole video on that. I'll link that for you as well. All right, guys, we're getting there. Got to work this thing in. I did it really tight, so I got to work it in and get it ready for our closure and the last bit of decorating. All right, so if you're working on this, you know I want to see it. You can head to our customer gallery and share photos of your process. Show us how it's going for you and let us know if you've tried it. Let me know if you're working on it. I really want to know if this is something that you see yourself doing. Tell me in the comments below. Also, we will get to, the second part will be Saturday where we will finish it up completely and then you'll be able to see exactly how mine turns out. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Talk to you again real soon. Bye-bye.